Hey everybody, this is Mary Grothy, and you're tuning in to my podcast, Destination Remarkable, the show where I chat about my journey through life from childhood to founding 3 companies to my venture launching 2 books with Forbes. Every week, I'll dive in and unveil the highs, the lows, and even the nitty-gritty details of my journey. It's raw, it's real. Let's get started. Hey, Destination Remarkable. We are talking about Growmance today. Have you ever struggled with Growmance as a leader or someone in revenue? I have. What is Growmance? Well, I don't know. That's not even a real word, but I saw it somewhere the other day. I would love to give the person credit, but unfortunately, I don't even remember where I saw it. It was somewhere probably on LinkedIn. If you know who said it, tag them on this episode and we will give them credit. But I fell in love with this term, Growmance. It is, in my opinion, an obsession with growing at all costs and putting growth into a position of an idol and worshiping growth. I think of it as more of a lustful type relationship where, that's why I said Growmance. It's like I have to have it. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get it. So let's talk about Growmance and why the obsession of Growmance is maybe not what founders and leaders should have as their North Star. When I first started this company that I have, House of Revenue, formerly Sales BQ, started about 5 years ago. I did not have any idea of what growth was going to be when I first started. And I quite honestly didn't care. I was very short-term focused of paying my bills. And I left a very high-paying job with benefits and a salary to be an entrepreneur. So when I first started out, I didn't even know what the vision was for the business. I just had a hypothesis on the problem I was going to solve in the market. I beta tested it for a few months and then started to identify how it was going to grow into a business. And in a way, the model was growing itself. I do need to admit I was selling one of the easiest things to sell, which is the hope of growing sales. Most companies want more sales. So when you are a sales consultant or a sales trainer, or you promise sales leads, or you do anything that has a value proposition centered around growing revenue or increasing sales, a lot of business owners want that. It is a good market. There's a great market for it. Why? Because it's hard. There's also a reason why, because there is an obsession for growth in the startup, entrepreneurship, scale up, and business community. It's almost like a rite of passage or an identity, or at a level of people will achieve worthiness or recognition when they hit certain numbers or at a certain pace. Growmance, though, will catch up with you. It caught up with me, and I'd love to tell you that story. So when I first started the company, the model built itself as we started gaining traction in the market. And it wasn't until we finished out our first year, we did about $500,000 in revenue, just below. And I was in the thick of it. I could not get my head above water. I didn't even realize that doing $500,000 in your first year was actually like a good thing in a services business, bootstrapped. I had somebody look at me and say, like, do you realize what you just accomplished? Like, no. I know what I didn't accomplish, sleep. But no, I don't know what I just accomplished. And he was telling me, in the world of sales training and consulting, most businesses won't get over a couple $100,000 a year. So it's really, really hard. And he said, you also are at a run rate that is indicating that you are going to be over $1 million next year. He goes, there are people that have dedicated their lives and passion, their professional careers to being a sales trainer and building a brand around it that will never cross $1 million in sales. And he's like, you're already at the run rate and you're in your first year. Well, at the end of the first year. He said, this is impressive. So then it started to sink in, and I started to think, maybe we're onto something. Maybe I am something. And that ego came in, and then the drive of that recognition and acknowledgement felt really good. I'd like to get more of it. Started applying for those awards. Some of them are pay to play. Some of them are real organic awards you can win. Started applying to be on the lists and the who's and the getting the plaques. And all of a sudden the market started to agree with me that I was something because I was a growing CEO. And then the cooler part is that I was a female CEO, which only 1% of women owned businesses get past $1 million. So I thought, well, I'm definitely going after this number. And part of it was the Growmance obsession, but the other part was actually like good-heartedness. Like, I love what I'm doing. I think we're doing good work. And I want to prove to other women that they can do it too. I mean, that's kind of sad that only 1% of women-owned businesses go across $1 million. At least that was the stat that was presented to me by the Women's Chamber when I had that conversation back in 2018. So I was balancing the flesh and the spirit of me being a Christ-centered woman of I want to serve the Lord, with the flesh side of that feeling of immediate gratification when people tell me I'm awesome. That feels good, especially being a child in an abusive environment. It feels good because you don't get a lot of that when you grow up as a child of an alcoholic parent. And so here I am like, dang, these people sure make me feel really good. So I started to chase it as I dove in as a business owner the second time around. And for those of you that know the story, I had my first business at 28, and that was experimental to say the least as a CEO for 3 years. But the second time around, we were growing a real business with a real P&L, with real clients and real employees, and really doing something and building a real brand. And it was all very exciting. But with that, the Growmance overtook my life. And I remember that when we did 3X in the second year, and we did 1.5 million just over in revenue, that I had the moment of tears streaming down my face. I was so proud of myself. I couldn't believe it. And I started to believe my own press of how great I was and all the accomplishments. And wow, I must really be something. I'm amazing. Look at the growth that we had. And then as the story goes, COVID hit a couple of months later, shut everything down. We lost 60% of our business. And that is the moment when I realized those false tears and that false sense of, wow, I really did it and I have it all set in for me. And the reality of it was, in order to achieve 3X scale in a bootstrap business in professional services in a second year and cross 1.5 million and be at a run rate of over 2 million, I neglected my family. I was neglecting myself. I was not healthy. I also was a massive workaholic, and things were not good. It just wasn't good. It wasn't good growth. It was growth, but it wasn't admirable growth, and it came at a lot of costs. Yet I look around in our community and how business community and how many LinkedIn posts and articles and press releases and you name it. It's about growth, 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 triple, triple, double, double, this funding, this Series A, this Series B, C, D, acquisition, IPO. Like, it's just grow, 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 grow. And I feel like so much of this emphasis overshadows some of the coolest parts of business, which I think we need to be having some romance with people first, doing right by others, not being shoddy business people. Can I please tell you about the last 2 weeks of my life dealing with shoddy business people? Holy smokes. Like, where in business school do they have a chapter on 100 ways to be an a-hole to your vendors, partners, and employees? I have had to deal with things I just cannot even believe someone anywhere finds acceptable as a business practice, dishonoring contracts, using foul language and defamatory, is that how you say it? Defamation, whatever the proper word is. To the point of like harassment and verbal abuse coming through to me in emails. I'm like, what world do I live in? I don't understand this obsession with this growth at all costs. It's like, how about we start highlighting and romanticizing good things in business? Like, I made a decision to take our P&L, our profit, down to zero so that I can increase every single person's salary in this company. At the same time, I made the decision to reduce our workloads over time. It takes time by 30%. So people can have quality of life. So I'm paying them more to do less work. How about that? Can we highlight that? That all the hard work that I've done in the last 4 years to have a multi-million-dollar business with great EBITDA, so it's worth something. For those of you that don't know, a services business doesn't typically get multipliers. And so your business value is based on your cash, EBITDA, and you're lucky to get a multiplier when you get in past 5 million in top line revenue is where it starts to take off a little bit more. But we don't have long-term contracts here at House of Revenue. We want to graduate our clients within a year. That hurts my value of this company. So if any day I wanted to walk away from the company, like I've had enough, it's time to exit. I'm ready for the next chapter of my life. Even though we could be at several $1 million in top line revenue, the value is going to be based on the cash that we have on hand. So in this season where it was difficult, where everyone else is romanticizing growth and obsessed with it and all these shiny numbers and facts, like I'm here taking our profit down to zero to invest in the people and invest in our quality of life, restructuring our model so that we can have really, really good alignment with our clients in a 3-month span, bravely saying, I am going to make the biggest pivot we've done in history of this company so we can solve and fix, because what is repeatable is preventable. And we finally had the data. We had yet another 18-month feedback loop. This is the same 18-month feedback loop that we had in the onset of our business. From day one of starting into 18 months into existence, we made the first biggest pivot ever from being a sales consulting and recruiting and training company to then growing into this holistic fractional CRO with branding, marketing, sales, CS, RevOps. That pivot happened after we had an 18-month data feedback loop from our customers. Well, guess what? We rode that, and then we shifted the model at the beginning of 2021. And when we shifted the model, I now have an 18-month feedback loop, and I'm able to make another pivot. It's the biggest, boldest pivot. It's a lot harder to make pivots when you're at a $5 million run rate as a business and 25 or more employees. It's hard. The first pivot came when we had like 5 employees. A little bit easier to pivot. It's been the hardest thing I've ever had to do, but putting people first, ahead of the profit, ahead of the revenue number. Like we made it on the Inc. 5000 list for our growth from 2018 to 2021. Cool. Over 300% growth. We landed number 893 on that list. Cool. Yay. So the thought actually crossed my mind, shame on me. Well, if I take the revenue down this year, because that's what I did, I took us from a $5 million budget down to 3.4 million. If I take us down on the budget, down on the capacity, down on the clients, down on the workload, down on the employee count, we're probably not going to make the Inc. list again, or at least not 2 years in a row. Like the thought actually crossed my mind for just a second, because there is that excitement of like, hey, I made the list. So I have this Growmance problem that seeps in, and I realize, wait, who cares? Who literally cares if you are on the Inc. 5000 list? I could name 15 people inside of my organization that care if they make more money and have better work-life balance in a realistic capacity so that they can be partners, spouses, parents, friends. They care about that. They're not going to care about the Inc. list. The obsession with Growmance is over for Mary Growthy. It's over. I don't care. It's a people-first mentality now. Growth is important, but obsessing over it and being lustful towards growth and romanticizing and prioritizing growth, it should never come at the expense of the people that are standing by your side to get the job done. And that's the realization for me in this season as I'm stepping into that adjusted identity, putting my big girl pants on, stepping up. This is time to step up. I feel a little bit renewed. Had a tough season there, but we're looking forward. I hope this is encouraging to you. Growing a company is not bad. Hello, that is what we do for a living. We scale other people's companies. But you know, the reason Our core values are serve first, scale second. We have no business scaling our CEO clients' companies if we're not first right with them in their heart and their why and their mission and the passion and their people. Like, there's a good way to scale a company, the growth at all costs way. And then there's more of a human way, which I'd like to sign up for, which is another reason that we're not aligning with a lot of VC firms. And we're not really on the ride with a lot of SaaS companies on that Series A to Series B journey anymore. I'm not going to have an investor tell me what number we have to hit if they can't understand all the components of a business. I know that's a bold claim to make on this. I will work with a venture-backed company. We will bring them on if it's the right people, the right team, the right investors, the right model, the right product, and the right market. All of those components, we can stand by that. But I don't want to be a part of a losing team. And by losing, I mean it's when the people don't win, even when the bottom line does. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you're interested in connecting with me, you can find me, Mary Grothe, spelled Grothe, on LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, or Instagram.